The Dragon Who Had Lost His Spark. Once upon a time, in a little village in the country, there lived a renowned baker. He knew how to bake the best rolls, the best loaves of bread, and the best pies for miles around, and he was deservedly very proud of it. The baker had a son, whose name was Jack. But he was not at all proud of Jack, because although he was a strapping young man and clever enough, he didn't like baking bread. When Jack was waiting for the bread rolls to bake, he got very bored. He gazed into the oven, yawned, and sighed dramatically. His father couldn't bear so much as to look at him. "What am I to do with you?" he said. "I've taught you everything and given you all the best recipes, and you just sit here yawning. Don't you realize the bakery will one day be yours?" Jack plucked up all the courage he could muster and replied, "I know that, Father, and I'm grateful for all you have taught me. But I'm bored. I've never been outside the village. I have seen nothing. The only thing I know about is this oven. And I'm fed up with it. I want to see the world. I want to learn more than just how to knead dough." The old baker nodded his head sadly. "What am I to do with you?" he said with a sigh. "Go then. If you return, the bakery will be waiting for you. If you don't, so be it. I'd rather have no helper at all than one as bored as you are." And so, Jack packed a few necessities and a bundle of butter croissants and set out on his journey. He went on foot and followed his nose. He wandered all over the world for a long time and saw new places and did all sorts of new things, but none of it felt particularly adventurous. One day, he arrived in a new town and went to the local pub for dinner. Eager not to lose any time, he asked the locals straight away what interesting things there were to see in the area. "We've got a dragon," one of the locals told him, looking quite serious. Jack's eyes widened in surprise, but the rest of the table broke out in guffaws of laughter. "He's truly terrifying," said another of them, and once again everyone laughed out loud. "If I were you, I wouldn't stay in this town," added another, trying to keep a straight face but failing. Jack was confused. "Why are you laughing?" he asked. "You'll see. He lives in the woods. You'll find him easily, but be careful." "Why? Is he dangerous?" asked Jack. The men laughed so much that tears streamed down their cheeks. "When you see him, you might die laughing." Jack didn't know what to think. The very next day, he set out to find this mysterious dragon. He walked through the woods for a long time, but there was no sign of any dragon. What he did notice, though, was a fire extinguisher hanging from a branch of one of the trees. Soon after that, he found another one. And not long after that, he saw a hose hanging from a branch. Not much further, there was a helmet with a dark visor. This strange collection of firefighting equipment led all the way to a rock face, and at the foot of the rock face was the dark entrance to a cave. "Is anyone in there?" Jack called out. "What do you want? Have you brought more stuff?" replied a grumpy voice from inside the cave. "My name is Jack, and I'm looking for the dragon," Jack said tentatively. In the depths of the cave, something moved, and then a dragon's head appeared. And then another one, and a third. The third one was grumbling. If I catch anyone else hanging their clutter all over the trees, I swear I'll—" But the three-headed dragon broke off mid-sentence when it saw Jack's puzzled expression. "Didn't you come to laugh at me?" he asked. Jack shook his head. "I was just curious. I've never seen a real dragon before." "And you probably never will," replied the dragon sadly. "I'm not a real dragon. I can't breathe fire. Everyone in the village comes out here just to mock me. They hang up ridiculous clutter all over the trees and make all kinds of fun of me," complained the dragon. "But how did you get here?" "I set out to explore the world," Jack answered. He told the dragon about his life at home, about the bakery, about how he had set out on his adventures, and about everything he had seen since. Jack caught the dragon's interest. The dragon began to ask him about the things he had seen and done on his travels, nodding first one, then two, and sometimes even three heads. It didn't take long for him to decide that this here was really quite a fine young man. "So I've been travelling from place to place," concluded Jack. "My feet ache, and I wouldn't mind staying in one place for a while. I've had enough of exploring the world now. But what can I do?" "All I know how to do is bake bread." "If you have nowhere to go, you can stay here," offered the dragon. "I've got plenty of room, and you won't go hungry here in the forest. If you like, you can even build an oven here." "The town could do with a decent bakery," suggested the middle head, and the other two heads nodded in agreement. So Jack moved in with the three-headed dragon. When he had settled in, he built an oven and began to bake. And what a good baker he was! At first, the townspeople laughed at him, but they stopped as soon as they had tasted Jack's bread rolls and pies. Very soon, Jack had so many customers that he could no longer manage to deliver all his orders around the town himself. He asked the dragon to help him. The dragon was delighted that he could finally be of use to someone and got really fired up about the idea. Day after day, he whizzed around in the sky carrying fresh bread to Jack's customers. To begin with, the locals would stop and stare as he flew over, but they soon stopped. When they saw him land with a delivery, they would smile and wave at him, and instead of handing him matchboxes, they now handed him bags of coins. Jack and the dragon worked happily together and were so busy they hardly noticed that autumn had come. But then one day the dragon woke up with a terrible cold. He sneezed, coughed, and blew his nose so hard that the cave shook. "You can't go out on your delivery rounds like that," Jack told him. "Stay here and watch the oven for me." The three heads nodded in agreement, and the dragon slunk back into the cave, snorting and snuffling. Jack had his work cut out. He didn't stop for a minute all day long, but when he returned to the forest in the evening with his empty sack, he couldn't believe his eyes. Where the tall spruce trees had stood, there was nothing but rows of blackened stumps. Jack panicked and ran as fast as he could to the cave. At the cave entrance, he didn't find the disaster he had been expecting. Instead, there was the dragon sitting happily in front of the cave entrance. His nose was smouldering. "I can breathe fire! I can breathe fire!" he shouted when he saw Jack, jumping up and down and shooting little flames out into the surrounding treetops. When he had calmed down a little, he told Jack how he had been looking after the oven when all at once he felt a sneeze coming. As he had breathed in, he had accidentally inhaled the fire from the oven. And that, would you believe it, had lit him up inside. And from that moment on, the dragon had his spark back. He could breathe fire. The dragon laughed, and little sparks flew out of his nose. "I'm going to have to learn how to work with fire again," he said. "I've completely forgotten everything I knew." The middle head smiled apologetically. Jack was delighted. "That's perfect," he said. "We will make original dragon bread with a crunchy crust toasted by a real dragon. No one else can make that, not even my father." And so they did. News of their unique dragon bread spread far and wide, and soon long queues began to form in front of their cave bakery. Everyone wanted to taste the new bread, and everyone who had tasted it came back for more. The dragon, who had been so fired up about delivering bread, was now really and truly on fire. Jack ended up becoming a renowned baker, even though he hadn't intended to. Eventually, the news of his dragon bread reached his father, and he came to see his son. "Look at you who didn't like baking. I turned my back for a minute and you set up a flourishing bakery. I'm proud of you, Jack, and if you need any help, just let me know." "Thank you, Father," said Jack, giving him a hug. "I do have one little job you could help me with." So they walked along the path to the town together and collected all the fire extinguishers, hoses, and helmets. Then they put them all away safely in the back of the cave. After all, with a freshly fired up dragon around, they reckoned they might come in handy.